Greetings YouTube and welcome to a video I'm always excited to make to help the community kind of decide the best and the worst values for their Intel currency, because these in-game store opportunities are a fantastic free resource to get valuable items that you normally could not get in the game. And if you're free to play, these are the kind of things that, besides unit offers, they're going to be the only way you really progress outside of the normal story mode or monthly quests, or things like Alliance War and Alliance Quest. So if you're a free-to-play player especially, you really want to take into account the value of your Intel purchases, because it could be the difference between progressing and kind of regressing when you have a chance. And so I want to start off this video with the assumption that we have a baseline budget. A baseline budget of 5,000 Intel. Now, I do realize that some people will get less than that, and I do realize that some people will get more than that. But in general, when you have a really high-priced ticket item like the FiveStar Awakening Gem, which will cost you, 95% of your Intel if you do everything, including the calendar, you're going to want to know, is that risk, is that gamble for the FiveStar Awakening Gem worth all of what I've earned? Or is it better to spread it out to guaranteed value, as this FiveStar Awakening Gem is a class-based 1 out of 6 gamble, which most likely would give me my 5th 5-star Tech Awakening Gem in a row, because the Kabam RNG likes to favor the classes that you already have in your inventory. And for me, it has been the curse of my account since pretty much the start of 2018. So here's the deal. The FiveStar Awakening Gem Crystal still has a lot of value, but we have seen its value drop. It used to be $100 was a great deal for a 5-star Awakening Gem. Now we've actually seen it with other items for about $60 to $70. So you are going to have to look at that as a $60 to $70 value purchase. If this was a generic 5-star Awakening Gem, not a crystal, but an actual gem that you could use on any 5-star champion, we would be having a very different conversation about the value of this, because it really would be a no-brainer for anyone in the top tiers of the game who really are just looking for those 5- and 6-star champions to get their hands on as many generic awakenings as possible. But because it's a class-based, there's a little bit more of a pause on its true value in the Intel store. So we're going to go from the very top, and I'm going to discuss everything that I can about this store. Now, I'm actually very thankful that I waited to do this video until after all the Act 6 announcements, because it has changed the value of everything beneath a 5-star. That's not to say that 4 stars still don't have value, especially in every content before Act 6, but I have said, and some of the comment section has reminded me, that I would much rather have a rank 5 4-star, like a rank 5 Sig 99 Void, over a rank 4 Unawakened Void. And I still feel that way. I definitely still feel that way about a champion like Unawakened Star-Lord as a 5-star versus Awakened Star-Lord as a 4-star. Or, for that matter, sometimes in questing, an Awakened Blade, especially at max Sig for that regen, is going to potentially last longer in a fight against a high PI'd champ, because you can regenerate that health with the Awakened ability as a 4-star than it would be as a 5-star, especially a 5-star that's under rank 4. So with that being said, I would probably have a very different discussion about the value of the 4 stars, but it's gone down significantly overall to the future investment of your account, since for the moment, Kabam is still having those champion requirements that outlaw any 4-star from Act 6. So off the top, just laugh, shake your head at, and ignore the 3-star Hero Crystal altogether. The fact that they think that people are going to purchase up to 5 of them means that there are a lot of people out there who don't understand how bad of the value that 3-star Hero Crystal is. You can get 3 stars so easily in the game. I don't care if you're starting an account this week, that your Intel would be entirely wasted on the 3-star Hero Crystal. Now, the 4-star Awakening Gem is traditionally a much better value than the 3-star Crystal, of course. Now, the Awakening Gem, I actually think, should be valued at least 100 Intel less. Ideally, it would be 200 instead of 400. If you need a 4-star Awakening Gem and you have at least 2 to 3 classes of champions that you would immediately use it on, so you've got about a 50-50 shot of having it be something that really helps your account, and you're trying to push for, say, Act 3 or Act 4 completion, I think it's a valuable use of your Intel, especially because you can only get one of them. But at the same time, if you really are trying to move away from 4 stars, you're going to be wanting to ignore all of this, including the 4-star Hero Crystal, which for 900 Intel is not the best deal at all. In fact, I still think this is pretty much overpriced as well. I think it should be about 500 Intel, because if you consider that a 3-star Hero Crystal is not even valued at 200 Intel, make it about 2.5 times the value of a 3-star. In this case, it's more than 4 times the price of a 3-star. Not worth it at all. Neither is the 4-star Hero Crystal Shards. Just ignore that altogether. And the 4-star 6 stones, you can get those so easily from daily quests that you just want to make sure to not waste your Intel on any 4-star signature stone crystal. Now, the 5-star Awakening Gem Crystal is really quite a fascinating expense. If you're going for this, this is what you're going to spend your currency on. You're not going to get anything else unless you've got a couple hundred left over, but for the sake of this video, we're just going to assume that this would wipe your currency out completely clean. If you have, kind of like the 4-star Awakening Gem discussion, about 2 to 3 classes of champions that you know you can instantly use it on and it will transform your account, I would say lean toward this item. But if you're like me and you most likely are only targeting like one class, like for instance, I've never been able to pull a Mystic Awakening Gem to save my life, or a Mutant for that matter, and I would love to use the Mutant on Omega Red if I landed him, or the Mystic to finally, after years of waiting, awaken my 5-star Ghost Rider, that makes sense. But you've also got to understand, I'm not saying this because I'm some conspiracy theorist. I really do believe that the Christmas free uncollected 5-star Awakening Gem Crystal proved, once again, that because Kabam keeps track of every purchase you make in their internal algorithms of chance, quote unquote, they are going to heavily skew the RNG toward the classes that are already in your inventory. I cannot tell you how many times people have sent me screenshots where they have 3 cosmic 5-star gems and that's it. Or in my case, 4 tech gems and that's it. So I'm a little bitter towards the 5-star Awakening Gem Crystal odds in general, because I do think Kabam rigs them to have it be biased towards your previously purchased accounts, because the RNG knows that you're needing the other ones and you might be more inclined to purchase things like 5-star Hero Crystal Shards if you need that natural dupe versus duplicating them with a Awakening Gem Crystal. Okay, so the 5-star Hero Crystal Shards are an interesting discussion. 575 Intel for 1,000 is pretty bad, but not as bad as the 145 5-star Hero Crystal Shards for 250. I would go ahead and say that these values for 5 stars are pretty bad. Pretty bad for those shards, especially given how available those shards have been even in the monthly calendars now. So I would kind of move away towards these, because I'm going to skew you in the direction of by far the best value, and that is coming up in this store. So the 2,500 5-star Hero Crystal Shards, if you spend your 1,440 and your budget is 5,000, that's almost 1/3 of your budget for 1/4 of a 5-star Hero Crystal. So if you really, really need 5 stars, and of course, if you've mainly been leaning on your 4-star roster as a hope for synergies and maybe even some additional content for Act 6, you now know you can't. So this is going to really factor into your need to start taking advantage more of 5-star crystals, especially given how impossible it is to even dupe a champ naturally in the crystal now. You have less than a 1% chances. There's well over 100 champions in the 5-star basic crystal. So I would say if you're going to go for 5-star shards in general, you look at the difference. 1,000 is 575, so 2,500 being 1,440. It's about the same ratio. You just have to ask yourself whether or not it's worth it. I do think if you don't grind in the arena, you might as well spend 1/3 of your intel on 5-star Hero Crystal Shards, because 25% of a basic crystal is still pretty significant. Now, 5-star 6 stones at 200 intel apiece, I would not get these at all, because they are the 1 out of 6 RNG-based crystal. If they were generics, I would say that's a great price for generics, because you could use them on anyone at any time. But the crystals are a gamble, and really, really not worth it. Speaking of a gamble, you have, for the price of all of your intel, the same price of a 5-star Awakening Gem is essentially 1,200, well, even just 1,000 SixStar shards. So you can 4,000 out of 5,000 of your intel would be spent on 1,000 SixStar Hero Crystal shards. It amazes me that SixStars are still priced so high when you consider how more accessible they're going to be via the Cavalier Crystal when Act 6 goes live next week. I think SixStar shards are really, really not worth your intel at all. If you only get 5,000 and it's 1/5 for 250 SixStar Hero Crystal shards, it's just not worth it at all. Now, Tier 1 alphas are kind of a tricky animal. You consider, this is what I don't understand about Kabam's math. You consider for the price of 80, that's pretty dang good. Because normally you can get 2 T1 alphas for the price of a 3-star Hero Crystal, and you know which one's going to be way more valuable, especially when you're ranking up 5 stars, because you need 5. What I love about the Intel store, which is different than past stores, is that when you're increasing, the price doesn't increase per item. It doesn't get bigger, which normally was the case in the past store. So Kabam has fixed that metric, and I'm really thankful for that. In general, though, you've got to ask yourself, what am I going to spend my glory on? And we're going to get into this with the Tier 2 Alpha discussion and really the Tier 5 Basic Fragment discussion here in a second. But I think if you've got a couple of 100 of Intel left after your major purchases, the Tier 1 Alphas are the best value for the smallest amount of Intel. Really consider getting them up. Tier 1 Basics, completely ignore. Tier 1 Class Catalyst Crystals, completely ignore. Now, the Tier 2 Alpha deal, the single best value by far in the store is the Tier 2 Alpha Catalyst Fragment, half of a T2A for 500. And Kabam is telling me that they know this is the best value in the store because it purchase limits 1. If the purchase limit wasn't 1, you're telling me for 15, just consider this, you can get a fully formed Tier 2 Alpha on average if you could get more than one of these for 1,000 Intel. You could get one fully formed Tier 2 Alpha for the same price as 250 6-star shards. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever and crazily overvalues 250 6-star shards, especially because there's so many trash 6-star champions at this point in the basic 6-star Crystal. But at the same time, the first thing I would do, unless you have Tier 2 Alphas that are overflowing and expiring and you cannot afford to get any more fragments, which is a small percentage of the community, to be honest, I would snatch up the 18,000 Tier 2 Alphas. That is such an amazing deal. It's basically a free half of T2A. Now, the 3600, a little bit different. You do get a max of 3 purchase limit, so you are going to have the opportunity to get over 9,000 Tier 2 Alpha Catalyst fragments additionally from the 3 out of 3 purchase limit. When you scroll down, you have another 1 of 1 purchase limit with the 7,200. So you have a total of 500 plus 300 is 800 plus 200 is 1,000. You could spend 1,000 Intel, the same Intel price as 250 6-star shards, and you could get that fully formed Tier 2 Alpha. Pretty dang amazing when you consider the value. By far, the best part of the store is the T2 Alpha fragments. And if you have a 5,000 Intel budget, you're only spending 1/5 of that on Tier 2 Alpha shards. So you've got 4,000 left to stock up on 5-star shards or other important items. Tier 2 Basics, I would ignore. Now, the Tier 2 Class Catalyst Crystals can sometimes come in handy. If I'm newer to the game, it might be tempting to spend like 30 or 60 Intel on those just to have them in the inventory. But in general, I would steer clear of the Tier 2 Basics, the Tier 3 Basics, the Tier 2 Class Catalyst Crystals, and the Tier 3 Class Catalyst Crystals, because it's the crystal itself, not worth the gamble. Also, not worth the gamble, it's really not a gamble, I guess, as much as it is just not that great of an item, is the Tier 4 Basic Catalyst. These things should be at least 100 Intel cheaper, and yet they are 400 instead of at the most 300. You can get these so easily with your glory that you want to completely ignore them in this store. They are not a good value at all. When you consider that you can get 7,200 Tier 2 Alpha Catalyst fragments for half the cost of one Tier 4 Basic, it makes literally no sense. Whoever made those prices just didn't really think about the value of the game, in my opinion. Now, the Tier 4 Class Catalyst Crystal, for those of you who need Tier 4 Class Catalyst, pretty decent price. I would expect that to be at least twice the price of a Tier 4 Basic. So 700 is actually not the worst deal. Again, it's 70% the Intel price. of a fully formed Tier 2 Alpha. So you don't want to do anything with purchases unless you're convinced that the 5-Star Awakening Gem is the way for you to go. You don't want to do anything with your leftover purchases until you've spent your first 1,000 intel on Tier 2 Alpha Catalyst fragments, because they're just such no-brainer, by far the best value in the store. Now, the Tier 5 basic Catalyst fragments, there used to be a day where I would say you really, really want to jump on these immediately because they're so rare. But the Glory Store introduction does give me some pause with this. Now, to be honest, I am somebody that at the point of my gameplay, I really don't care that much about 5-star shards because I get them so fast in the 5-star featured arena on a weekly basis as it is, and then along with summer advancement and monthly events, I really am never worried about getting 5-star shards. So I know I'm going to get 1,000 of my intel used for the Tier 2 Alpha Catalyst, and I'm going to have 4,000 left. And with those 4,000 left, I know I'm going to be able to basically spend the rest of it on 4,500 Tier 5 basic Catalyst fragments. And I know that my next two goals are to get my 6-star Corvus to rank 2 and my 6-star Domino to rank 3. So even though the value of these is overinflated because of the Glory Store and just the ability still to sell Tier 4 basic Catalyst for Tier 5 basic Catalyst fragments, I personally might be leaning toward snatching up all of the Tier 2 Alpha Catalyst fragments deals and then spending the rest on Tier 5 basics. If I don't do that, I'm going to be very tempted to at least snatch up one of these 2,500 5-star shards just because I also like giving my subscribers more chances to control 5-star crystals in live streams. But in general, really, the things you want to focus on in the store are things that you don't normally spend your glory on, with the exception of the Tier 1 Alphas, because I think you can never have too many of those, and 80 is a steal for those. So the best value by far, if you're not caring about the 5-Star Awakening Gem, which will essentially take all of your intel, you want to snatch up every Tier 2 Alpha Catalyst fragment deal, and then with the leftovers, concentrate on either 5-star shards, Tier 5 basic Catalyst fragments, Tier 4 class Catalysts, if you're like an intermediate player that really doesn't have any, or if you're super needy of at least 3 out of 6 classes, go for the 4-star Awakening Gem since you can only do one purchase limit. But in general, stay clear of all 4-star Hero Crystals and 4-star Hero Crystal Shards, 3-star Hero Crystals, 4-star Cincture Stones. Even the 5-star Sig Stones are not a good purchase. The 6-star Shards are the most overvalued thing in this store. It's kind of pathetic how expensive they are. 250 6-star Shards for the same price as a fully formed Tier 2 Alpha blows my mind. And so, yeah, basically just eliminate most of those things and save up your intel. But the first thing I would do with the intel I had, unless I really needed 5-star shards to open like a last chance at Blade, for example, would be, most importantly, the Tier 2 Alpha Catalyst fragments. I hope that this video has helped you. I've covered all of the notes in front of me that I wanted to cover, and I'm now having apparently problems connecting to the network. So that tells me the video should end. So I'm going to go ahead and hit stop on this video. And I want to say, as always, thanks for watching and supporting my Marvel Contest of Champions YouTube channel.